Our wedding anniversary was approaching, and I had planned a special evening, a romantic dinner to surprise my husband. The table was perfectly set, adorned with candles, carefully chosen dishes, and his favorite wine. Everything seemed flawless. But as much as I tried to perfect every detail, a small voice in my head asked, was there still something missing? When the doorbell rang, my heart skipped a beat. I was ready to greet my husband, to see his familiar, comforting smile. But when I opened the door, I was met with an unexpected sight. He wasn't alone. Beside him stood a charismatic stranger. My husband smiled mischievously. "Tonight we're trying something a little different," he said. "This is my friend Daniel," he continued, gesturing toward the man. Daniel was tall, sharply dressed, and exuded confidence as he extended his hand. "This evening," my husband added, "he's going to play the role of your husband." I stared at him in disbelief. "Are you joking?" I asked, letting out a nervous laugh, but his steady gaze and the playful smirk on his lips told me this was no joke. "Just for one night," he said. I thought it might be an interesting way to keep things fresh. Daniel stepped inside and handed me a bouquet of flowers. "Happy anniversary," he said warmly, his smile disarming. In that moment, my initial discomfort gave way to curiosity. My husband poured us a glass of wine, then casually announced, "I'll leave you two to enjoy the evening," before retreating to the kitchen. Suddenly, I was left alone with Daniel, a stranger who was now pretending to be my husband. As we sat down for dinner, Daniel was charming and effortlessly engaging. His compliments and laughter filled the room, and for a moment, I forgot the strangeness of the situation. He had a way of making me feel seen, as if I were the only person in the world. My thoughts swirled with confusion and intrigue. This was supposed to be a game, wasn't it? Yet, as I met his steady gaze, I felt the lines between reality and pretense begin to blur. After dinner, Daniel invited me to dance. The soft music playing in the background created an intimate atmosphere, and his hands on my waist sent a jolt of electricity through me. "Your husband is a very lucky man," he said, his voice low and sincere. That moment, everything shifted. The wine, the candlelight, and his magnetic presence wrapped around me like a spell. Without thinking, I leaned closer, and our lips met in a tentative kiss. It started softly, but a spark ignited, and the kiss deepened. Daniel's grip on my waist tightened as he pulled me closer, his passion consuming my thoughts. The game, the pretense, all of it melted away. My fingers tangled in his hair as his lips moved fervently against mine. It was raw, unrestrained, and completely overwhelming. When he pressed me gently against the wall, our kiss became a whirlwind of desire. My heartbeat thundered in my ears, and I couldn't think, only feel. The intensity of the moment was both exhilarating and terrifying. Daniel's touch, his whispered words, unraveled me. For a fleeting moment, I forgot everything: who I was, who he was, and the boundaries we were crossing. He led me to the couch, his movements both deliberate and tender. Every touch, every glance spoke volumes. I was entirely his in that moment, lost in a passion I couldn't control. The sound of faint footsteps from the kitchen jolted me back to reality. My husband was nearby. Daniel pulled back, his breathing heavy, his eyes locked on mine. "I should go back," he said softly, his voice tinged with regret. My heart raced as I tried to process what had just happened. The room felt charged with an energy that hadn't been there before. This was no longer a game, it was a dangerous line we had crossed. When my husband re-entered the room, his cheerful demeanor belied any suspicion. "Did everything go as planned?" he asked with a light-hearted smile. I glanced at Daniel, then back at my husband, guilt and confusion churning inside me. That night, as I lay in bed, I couldn't shake the memory of Daniel's touch, his words, his kiss. This anniversary had been meant to reignite our marriage. Instead, it had unearthed feelings and questions I wasn't ready to face. What had started as a playful game had become something far more complicated, and the consequences were yet to unfold.